his thoughts. He starts believing every idea that crosses his mind, whether good or bad. The problem is, not every thought is true, and not every belief is based on reality. Left unchecked, his mind can become his greatest enemy, feeding him doubts, fears, and insecurities that grow stronger the longer they go unchallenged. Self-doubt does not start as a loud voice. It begins as a whisper. It starts with a small thought, maybe a past failure, a rejection, or a missed opportunity. Alone with his thoughts, a man replays these moments over and over, slowly convincing himself that they define him. He begins to question his worth, his abilities, and his future. What could have been a lesson learned turns into a burden carried, weighing him down with regret and uncertainty. Without someone to offer perspective, to remind him of his strengths, or to help him see past his failures, those doubts become his reality. The mind is powerful, but it is not always honest. A man who isolates himself loses the ability to challenge his own thinking because there is no one there to offer a different point of view. The longer he spends alone, the more he starts to trust his worst thoughts. He convinces himself that he is not good enough, that he has nothing to offer, that success is out of reach. He starts seeing obstacles where there are opportunities and begins making decisions based on fear instead of ambition. A person's environment shapes their mindset. When a man surrounds himself with strong, driven, and supportive individuals, he is constantly reminded of his potential. He sees what is possible, he is encouraged to push past his doubts, and he is reminded that failure is not final. But when a man chooses isolation, his world becomes smaller and his vision becomes limited. He stops seeing beyond his current situation, and over time, he loses the motivation to strive for more. No one achieves greatness alone, and no one overcomes self-doubt without support. The strongest men are not those who never experience fear or insecurity. They are the ones who have built a network of people who help them push through it. When a man isolates himself, he deprives himself of the encouragement, wisdom, and accountability that come from meaningful connections. He tries to carry the weight of his struggles alone, and eventually that weight becomes too heavy. The difference between success and failure is often as simple as having the right voices in your life. When doubt creeps in, the right people remind you of your strength. When fear tries to hold you back, they push you forward. When you make mistakes, they help you learn instead of letting you dwell on them. But when you are alone, none of that happens. The doubts grow louder, the fears take control, and the mistakes feel permanent. A man who isolates himself is not just alone physically, he becomes trapped in a cycle of self-doubt that keeps him from reaching his full potential. A man who always spends time alone becomes an easy target. Just like in the wild, where a predator looks for the isolated and the weak, life will test those who separate themselves from the pack. The enemy, whether it be self-doubt, bad habits, or destructive thoughts, doesn't go after the strongest, the most disciplined, or the most prepared. It goes after the one who has no backup, no guidance, and no accountability. In nature, a lion doesn't attack the leader of the herd. It doesn't go after the strongest or the most protected. It looks for the one that's wandering, the one that's distracted, the one that has drifted too far from the others. Isolation is a sign of weakness, not strength. The moment you remove yourself from people who can challenge you, protect you, and guide you, you make yourself vulnerable to every negative force that preys on a man's mind and spirit. A man who is constantly alone is left to battle his struggles with no reinforcements. Life will hit hard, and when it does, the difference between standing back up and staying down is often the people around you. When you surround yourself with strong, driven, and wise individuals, you have a defense system. They see when you're slipping, they call you out when you need it, and they push you forward when you start falling behind. But when you are alone, there is no one to check on you, no one to challenge you, no one to help you course correct. Temptation and weakness always attack in isolation. Bad habits don't form in the presence of accountability. They take root when there is no one watching. A man who isolates himself starts making decisions that he would never make if someone was there to remind him of his values, his purpose, and his goals. When you're alone, it's easy to justify bad choices because there's no one to stop you. The mind plays tricks, convincing you that small compromises don't matter, that skipping the hard work is okay, that giving in just this once won't hurt. But those small decisions compound over time, leading a man further away from his potential. Even the strongest warriors have a team. The greatest leaders in history never stood alone. They had advisors, they had allies, they had people in their corner, helping them stay on the right path. No man, no matter how strong or intelligent, is immune to the dangers of isolation. The longer you stay away from those who sharpen you, the duller you become. The longer you convince yourself that you don't need anyone, the weaker you get. Strength is not the ability to be alone. Strength is knowing when to lean on others. Every successful person understands the importance of being surrounded by the right people. They know that in moments of doubt, fear, or uncertainty, it is their circle that keeps them moving forward. They know that life is full of challenges, and trying to face them alone is a losing battle. The most dangerous men in the world are not the ones who isolate themselves. They are the ones who build strong networks, who have people looking out for them, who understand that protection comes from unity. A man who always spends time alone is not in control. He is simply waiting for the moment life catches up with him. True strength is not found in isolation, but in the ability to build, nurture, and sustain meaningful relationships. A man who walks alone may believe he is strong, independent, and self-sufficient, but in reality, he is limiting himself. The most powerful men in history, the most successful leaders, and the most accomplished individuals all had strong networks, communities, and people who contributed to their growth. No one rises to greatness alone, and no one sustains success without a solid foundation of relationships. A man's power is directly tied to his ability to connect with others. When you surround yourself with people who uplift, challenge, and inspire you, you automatically elevate yourself. You gain access to knowledge, wisdom, and experiences beyond your own. You learn from others' successes and failures, saving yourself time and unnecessary mistakes. You become part of a system where support, encouragement, and accountability help you navigate life's challenges. A man who isolates himself operates with a limited perspective. His experiences are solely his own, and without outside influence, he risks becoming trapped in his own way of thinking. Growth happens through exposure to different ideas, different ways of thinking, and different solutions to problems. When a man is alone, his world becomes small. He only knows what he knows, and that limits his ability to evolve. The most successful men understand that expanding their circle expands their vision, their opportunities, and their ability to create lasting impact. Strength is not about how much you can carry alone, it's about how effectively you can build something greater than yourself. A truly powerful man does not seek to stand alone, he seeks to build a foundation that can support not only himself, but also those around him. He creates opportunities for others, fosters relationships that bring value, and ensures that his success is not temporary but sustainable. A man who refuses to build connections may achieve short-term victories, but he will struggle to maintain lasting success because he lacks the infrastructure of support that all great men rely on. In times of hardship, a man's strength is revealed by the people who stand with him. When life tests you, it is not your isolation that will carry you through. It is the relationships you have built, the people who believe in you, and the support system you have created. The most resilient men are not those who endure hardship alone, but those who have built strong enough relationships to help them weather any storm. A man who chooses to be alone deprives himself of this strength, making every challenge harder than it needs to be. Building and maintaining relationships requires effort, but the rewards far outweigh the cost. A strong network provides not only emotional support, but also opportunities, guidance, and protection. It creates an environment where growth is constant and where success is shared. A man who surrounds himself with the right people gains access to insights, strategies, and wisdom that would take him years to learn on his own. He becomes part of something bigger than himself, and through that, he becomes truly powerful.